Hi, you're listening to the Build Your Digital Community podcast. I'm your host, Christina Bartold, the co-founder and co-CEO of The Social Snippet, a social media agency focused on business owners growing their digital communities. On this podcast, we'll talk about all things digital community building so that you can grow your network and ultimately your business. Hi, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Build Your Digital Community. I'm your host, I'm Christina, and I'm so excited to be here today with a new friend from Entreprenista, Sarah Parise. And Sarah's a wellness coach and personal trainer and CEO of Half Enterprises, and she helps busy moms who want to prioritize their own health. And even though I'm not a mom, I know, from my own mom friends, how difficult that can be. But even as busy women and entrepreneurs, I know that sometimes our health can take the back burner on what we're doing. So Sarah, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited for this conversation today.
Yay, yeah, I'm so excited too. So, Sarah, I would love for you to tell people a little bit about you and maybe how you got into this work.
So I went to college to be a teacher. Since I was 5, I wanted to be a teacher, a lot of family full of teachers. And then I got a teaching job in Washington, D.C., and realized that you cannot live as a teacher in Washington, D.C. with the pay that you make. So I was doing what normal people do. I was bartending, I was waitressing, kind of doing side things here and there. And I just got so burnt out so quick because I was working so late and teaching so early that I was like, there's got to be a different way to do this. And so one of my teacher friends was a personal trainer, and he's like, you should get certified. You have a background in this. I had a master's in exercise physiology just because of an interest, not because I thought I would take it anywhere. And so I took my tests and did my certifications, and that was in 2006. And I really never looked back into the bartending world and the restaurant world of everything. And I've worked with, oh God, so many different people, marathon runners and triathletes, amputees, and women training to lose weight for their weddings and trying to get pregnant. And then I had my own daughter almost 7 years ago. And let's say my life got flipped upside down. My perspective really changed. I had always been into health and fitness, and I kind of found myself at the 6 month mark of being a mom and realized how much my own health had been a non existent priority for those 6 months, and was in a dark spot. Like I was just in a dark place, which I think a lot of moms land in and don't know who to talk to or what's going on or is this normal. And so when I had my daughter, I say that it was like a dream come true. It's all I ever wanted, was to have a family, and especially a daughter was like extra special on top of it all. But a nightmare realized because I was dealing with such bad postpartum, and I didn't have her till I was 36. So I always think that maybe that has something to do with it. I lived like this whole life of being single and taking care of myself all the time to not having that be a priority at all. So I totally switched my clientele, and now I only work with moms trying to make themselves a priority, because it's hard. It's like you're working full time, your kids are, up in the night, you're just tired. It's, bottom of the priority list to take care of yourself because you're so busy taking care of everyone else. And it has been the most rewarding switch ever. I've loved most of the people that I've worked with through the years have like set goals in mind, and then they accomplish those goals. And then I either continue to work with them and they set a new goal, or they go off on their own and they continue to do these things. With moms, it's hard because you're not training for anything. You're kind of training for life. So that part has been a big switch. And then, of course, COVID and taking everything online has also been very different for my business, for myself, just my personality in general. And it's been such an adventure, and I love where I've so far landed. And I know it's not my final, but it's been so fun along the way.
I love that because I actually think it's so interesting how when women become moms or take on these big next levels of their lives, it's like those ongoing priorities can sometimes really shift. So I'm curious for you, for those people who maybe are in that space where they've become a mom or are making it or some kind of big life change. What are the first things you would tell them to kind of think about or focus on?
I mean, just baby steps. I mean, really, it doesn't even, you don't even need to be a mom, but I've seen it with women like with a career change or like moving up the corporate ladder, and your hours are longer, your responsibilities are greater. And the first thing to go is your workout or your healthy meal prep or your meditation. It's like the first thing that goes, and it really should be the first thing that stays. The
Yeah.
busier we are and the more hectic our life is and how chaotic things are, that's when you should take care of yourself the most,
Mm.
ironically. And that's mostly when things start to go. So I say start really small. If you're doing nothing, like for me at that 6 month mark, when I hit that kind of rock bottom, as I refer to it as, I
Mm-hmm.
went to one yoga class. I had signed up for the yoga class the night before, so I paid. So I knew I would go because I've already paid.
Yeah.
I showed up. I had nothing in my tank. Like I was just, my daughter was up most of the night. She was not one for sleeping. Thank goodness
Mm.
that has changed. But I woke up in the morning feeling pretty miserable about things. I somehow dragged myself and my yoga mat up the street. And once I got in there, I just laid there. And I just, tears just like streamed down my face for the full hour.
Mm.
I couldn't get it together. And I listened to this woman who had the most peaceful voice guide everyone through this beautiful yoga practice. And here I am. I'm like, I paid for this and I'm just laying here. I couldn't get it together. And after class, it was someone that I had never taken a class with. She came over and put her hand on my shoulder and she's like, it's all right. Like the most important thing is you just showed up. Continue to show up.
Mm.
And she'll never know she completely changed my life because on that walk home that day, I was like, wow, I got to show up. Like I got to not only show up for myself, I have to show up for my daughter, I have to show up for my marriage. Like this is I can't live in this dark space. So it started baby steps. I'd wake up in the morning and I love tea. I'm like a big tea drinker. So I would walk out on our little patio that we had and I'd enjoy a cup of tea, whether my daughter was up or not up. I wasn't always alone, but I would enjoy like a morning sun in California and just enjoy a cup of tea. And it was like 10 minutes. It wasn't life changing, but for me it was.
Mm-hmm.
And then we started going on more walks, and I started doing that. And then I kind of took a look at what I was feeding myself and consequently my child, unfortunately. And it was basically sugar because that's what I was craving because I was just not sleeping. So then I started to kind of tweak my diet a little bit. But this was never, and I share this with moms all the time, I did not revamp this in a day. I didn't say, okay, no more sugar, no more wine, no more this. You have to move your body for an hour. It's the baby steps that make the big difference and that stick. That is the lifelong change. And I'd say that for anyone, not just busy moms.
I think there's so much there because I think that there's so much for people to glean from that, whether you are a mom or not, right? Like, I think a lot about even for us, like like when I was starting my business and I was working a 9 to 5 at the same time, like there was no time for anything else. Like that was my mindset. Like I was like, I can't do anything else. I'm grinding. Like this is my hustle season. Like, yeah. And then I experienced such horrible burnout. Like I was exhausted. I was so tired all the time. I would sleep. And I actually went to counseling because I was like, everyone else seems to be able to like do all these things. I'm like, I'm a high performing human. Like I should be fine. And they're like, do you have any hobbies? And I was like, hobbies? Like what are these things that people do? And she was like, oh, like, and I told this story in this podcast before, and I think it resonated for people, so I'll say it again. But I told this woman, like, I was like, I don't have hobbies. She was like, you don't like to do anything? And I was like, and everything I liked doing had productivity at the end of it. Like, it was like I needed to do something for, like, accolade of some sort and goal of some sort. And so she was like, I would really love for you to start coloring. Like, I would love for you every day, like, when you wake up to start coloring. And I was like, right, but like I can't sell the coloring. So like it's like hard for me to justify spending the time on that because like I wouldn't make money on the coloring. And she was like, okay, yeah, but that's not about making money. So then it was funny because I came home with a coloring book. I like went and I bought crayons because I'm a good student, athletes I needed from my therapist. And I went and I bought a coloring book and I bought some crayons. I come home and I'm going on a trip the next day and I put them in my bag and my mom's watching me pack and my mom goes, oh, like, what's the coloring book for? And I'm like, oh, I'm like, I went to therapy and like about like how I've been feeling burnout. And she told me to color. And my mom goes, why this is significant, I missed a part, was when she said this to me, I said, at least if I knit, I would have something at the end. Like if I knit, I would have socks. I could knit a sweater for somebody. I could knit a scarf like that. I have the patience for any of that shit. And my mom said to me, why wouldn't you just knit? So at least you would have something at the end. And I was like, oh my God, like I am you. But it was so, it like reminded me so much of like, we're so conditioned to believe that we don't have time for these things that are actually the most important. And this is why I really respect our mutual friend, Zach, where like Zach shows up for himself, like no matter what, like we'll be traveling and he's waking up at 4 a.m., whether he had 2 hours of sleep or he had 9. And like, because he's just so consistent, right? And so, yeah, it's amazing like how we've deprioritized the stuff that actually really matters.
And people always say to me, they're like, well, I already have a long day anyways.
Yeah.
Like, why am I going to get up 30 minutes earlier? And I'm like, because you don't realize the benefits of even if you got up and walked for 10 minutes,
Hmm.
your physical body would benefit, but your mental clarity is so different.
Yeah.
So it's like you're doing yourself a favor. It's not tacking on one more thing. It's like making everything else, you're springboarding into awesomeness like the
Mm.
rest of the day. So it's not like that list of to do things, but I fully relate to the productivity because I think about that even when I'm like playing with my kids and I'll be like finding myself cleaning up or like thinking about what's next. And I'm like, just be here. Like, this is enjoyable. Just enjoy what we're doing right now, which is way easier said than done.
Yeah, it's hard, and I think it's like it's something that's like a lifelong journey, and I really like actually it's something I really admired my husband is like I when we started like when we were married, it was at the beginning when we were married, still married, everything's fine, but when we like got started, this man would spend like 6 hours playing video games a day, and I would be like, but for what? Like, what happens at the end of these video games? Are you happy? Like, do you enjoy this? And he's like, yeah. And I'm like, well, what do you get out of that, right? Like, I don't have any hobbies. Like, I read a book. It's for business. Like, it's like these things. Like, I'm walking. There's podcasting. Like, but actually, like, intentionally taking time to like go on a walk and like not listen to anything.
Yeah.
Like that is so it can be so challenging, but it's like it's that kind of like reframing, continuing reframing of like these habits that we've so poorly picked up.
Well, it's like meditation too, and that's a big part of my program also. Like, it's not people are like, "Oh, you're a personal trainer. Okay, great. You do workouts." And I'm like, "Well, it's like strength training and yoga, meditation, mindfulness, and nutritional counseling." But the mindfulness piece is what I find the biggest
Yeah.
resistance in. Because people are like, "I don't have time to meditate." Who has time to meditate? And that's actually what one of the modules is called. Who's got time to meditate? And I'm like, well, you all have like 30 seconds in the morning before your feet hit that floor to do three deep breaths and think about
Mm,
what your day is going to be like and think about something positive you're looking forward to. There you go. And maybe
mm.
that's where you start. Maybe that's you just start with 3 deep breaths in the morning before you even get out of bed and it sets your mind up. You wouldn't think it would make a big deal, but it just snowballs. It's just like all these little things snowball into the end of the day and then it turns out to be a great day.
I love that. And I actually, what I love the most about that, Sarah, is that like often when we're thinking about meditation, like we're thinking about like a little yogi on a mat, and we're like, oh, like,
100%.
the 40 minutes that like it's going to take. But
Mhm.
instead, like just that deep breath before you're about to go into a meeting.
Absolutely. It
Yeah.
doesn't need to be much at all. I actually did a whole like series in my Facebook group on the benefits of a 3 minute meditation. And so that's what
Mm,
I do. My Monday meditations are just 3 minutes. And they're all different, like a body scan. It's like observing things around you. And I do like a ton of different types of meditation, but never more than 3 minutes because that's how much time you can't say you don't have 3 minutes. I'm
yeah.
sorry. As busy as everyone is, like you can find 3 minutes.
Oh my God, I love that. And what are the benefits of a 3-minute meditation?
Oh my goodness, it changes everything. It totally
Mm,
changes your body physiologically, in your brain, like just the mental state in general. Like you can see, like I have 2 brain scans, like before 3 minute meditation and after, how relaxed your brain is. It changes your hormones. It's unreal that in 3 minutes you can really reset your body if you allow yourself to just breathe and just be in that moment. And whether it's like focusing on holding a pen or doing a body scan through your body or just focusing on the inhale exhale, it doesn't need to be complicated and it doesn't
mhm.
need to be silent. Like I always tell people, I'm like on the New York City subway. I used to, when I lived there and I was a personal trainer in the early mornings. So I'd be like on the bus or the subway at 4 a.m. and I would meditate. And they're like, you'd close your eyes? I'm like, I would not. I would never close my eyes. You don't have to close your eyes. You find a drishti or a spot to focus on and you just breathe. And you just don't let the to-do list kind of run amok in your head or this monkey mind, as they refer to it as meditation. And it doesn't need to be this like deeply Zen kind of thing. It just, people make it way more complicated than it needs to be.
But it's like anything, I think, like when it comes to like
Everything,
wellness.
yes.
Yeah. It's funny. I did some breath work while I was in California. Like about I guess it was last October, and the entire time I was so in my head about it. And the thing that was so interesting for me was like the thoughts I was having or why I was so impacted by it was I kept thinking to myself like, why is everyone able to do this and I can't? Like, and it was like I was sitting there and people were like breathing and they were like
Like it was kind of intense. My friend Regina taught it, and Regina's like on the edge of the cusp of two woo. You know what I mean? Like at any point, she could get on a broomstick. I always tease her about this, but she is so inspirational. And so Regina like would like tell us like about how like we were when we were doing it, like like it's just your journey, and there's people up there who are like laughing and crying, and then there's people out there who are like just sitting there sobbing. And then at the end, people were getting up and they were like, I felt like I connected with the dead. Like I felt like these like moments, right? And I was like, I just breathed. Like, and I just sat there and nothing happened. And I didn't have any profound moments. And I think it's because we like romanticize all these things that everything needs to be this like hugely impactful experience. But it's like the practice of it being normal and becoming like part of our routine is actually like what the impact is.
And really think about even when you were going through that, like your heart rate was lowered, your blood pressure was lowered. You had this chemical reaction in your body that, produced relaxation, like all the things that you can't feel or even do by yourself or see from the outside, even more so. Like you said,
Yes.
someone's crying, someone's laughing, like you can't see any of those changes. So I think people are like, you exercise, a lot of people like they exercise to stay in shape. You can see that change. You meditate. I've been meditating for years. Do I look any different? No. People that know me see a difference because they're like, wow, you're kind of different than you used to be. I'm like, yeah. And I think in all the positive ways that I am,
Wow.
that I have more patience, I'm more calm. Like everyone else benefits from you meditating. That's what I remind myself.
And so what was the transformation for you with meditation?
It was a big transformation in the beginning of COVID. I was
Mm,
meditating kind of before that, of just like after I would do my some sort of physical activity in the morning, I would kind of lay down and just do a body scan, and it would be like maybe a minute. I would just see, okay, how do I feel today? What's going on today? But then in the beginning of COVID, like I think so many people, I kind of lost my mind a little bit. I was like
mm,
really anxious all the time. And we were living in Baltimore, Maryland, and we did like fully shut down. So I was stuck at home with two kids. The
yeah.
only time I was alone was my workouts in the morning. I'd go out to the garage because the gym was closed, and God forbid you touch anything.
Yeah.
And I would work out, and I was like, this is nuts. Like, I need to do more. Like, I wasn't feeling the benefits of just laying there for a minute. So I actually downloaded the Headspace app. It was one of the
Mm,
first ones I tried. And then I went through like everyone else. I tried all of them because you're like, oh, 14 days free here, 14 days free here. I'll try. But I kept coming back to the Headspace one because I do like the guided meditation. I do like when
mm,
someone's telling me what to think about and how to breathe and what to notice. Because as your mind runs away, as it will with meditation, because we're human and that's totally normal. I don't know if there's ever been a time where I've been like, oh, I didn't think about a single thing as I was meditating. It's just not the
mm.
case. But as you're listening to like a guided meditation and someone telling you, like there's walking ones, there's ones that you're just sitting and telling you to listen to your breath and where you feel your breath. Or I love like a good visualization where they like you start with a heart, like up near your heart, and you picture a light, and then it starts to spread through your body and then out into your yard and then out into your community and then out into the world. And I love those types of things because you're doing something. It feels productive. It's like productive
Yep.
meditation. End of it, you're like, I really accomplished something. And there is that feeling of like, my family and my coworkers are going to get a better version of myself because I took 3 minutes to myself this morning.
Mhm. I always feel that too about even like vacations and stuff like that. Like I come back and I am so rejuvenated.
Yeah.
I like even I was telling you earlier about Arizona. Like I go pretty frequently, and I
Mhm.
feel lighter when I come back. Like from the sun, like from like the way we eat while we're there. Like they have a really like healthy kind of environment. Like
Mhm.
it's like it's not uncommon. I'm like, oh my god, I ate so many salads. Like this is out of control. So many
And you
veg.
probably walked more, you probably moved your body
Yeah.
more.
Yeah, and took time, right? Like when you're not in your actual routine, like, and this is something I've been talking actually to a lot of the clients I coach. Is like, what does it look like for you to actually book a time in your calendar every day? That's like a no like CEO time, but it can have a workout in it. It can have whatever you want in it. But it's so hard, like when our schedules are so back to back to back, for us to feel like we can make the time.
And absolutely, and that's why I encourage people to do too, is to schedule your you time like it is a meeting
Mm,
you can't miss. Because it is. It's probably the most important meeting on your calendar is
yeah.
the time that you self-care. And it's not this self-care like, oh, that's a luxury over there. It's like, no, this is a necessity. You need to take care of yourself. I
Yeah.
love the airplane analogy of like when they give the spiel about the oxygen masks, like you have to put yours on first before you help your kids.
Mm.
Like you have to, because if you're passed out, who's putting it on your kids?
Yeah.
Taking care of your children as
Yeah.
you're not getting any oxygen. And it's obviously extreme, but I think it plays a role in everyone's life of like if you don't take care of yourself, how are you going to perform at work
Yep.
at the level that you want to perform at?
Yeah, I love that. And I was gonna say too, I'm not a fan of this human. I'm not like a huge Rachel Hollis person, but one of the things that Rachel like always talks about, like when I used to read her books, was like if you can't keep a promise to yourself, like how do you keep a promise to anybody else? And that's something I've been
Mm-hmm.
thinking a lot about. Is like as we build like our business and our little empire of stuff we're doing, like I
Yeah.
take my relationships with everybody so seriously. Like I'm so like, oh my gosh, like I couldn't miss a meeting. I wouldn't reschedule something. Like I'm worried about like when I broke my arm, I was like scared to rebook things with people. Like I felt bad. And I was on morphine and I was sleeping like 20 hours a day. And I would be like, I'm just gonna sit by the computer and like take a call. My husband's like, you're insane. Like you can't take a call. Like it doesn't matter if it's a sales call. Like you need to just like
He's like,
take
no,
care
you're
of it.
literally insane right now. You need to stop.
Oh, I know. It was like me between Josh and my business partner. Like they were like, "We're gonna cancel that meeting, okay?" And I was like, "Yeah, I'm gonna take a nap." But it's like asking like some of those things, like asking for what you need when you need it. And so I'm
Mhm.
curious. I'm curious for you, Sarah. Like, so if somebody was thinking about like, okay, I'm feeling over like burdened, and I wanted to start taking some of those baby steps. What are some of
Mhm.
the baby steps and like some of the areas that you work with that people could take? Because I understand the whole like meditate on the subway with your eyes definitely open if you're in New York, for 1 minute. But yeah, I'm curious. What are some of the other baby steps you would encourage of folks?
I start with walking because most able bodies can move in that way.
Yeah.
That it doesn't take a lot of equipment. It doesn't even take a lot of space. I mean, you could even walk around your tiny New York City apartment. Just move your body in some way, shape, or form for 10 minutes, whether that's
Yeah.
walking, running, doesn't matter how fast you go. Get the physical and mental benefits of just 10 minutes. And you
Mm,
can fit in 10 minutes. Set the
yeah.
alarm 10 minutes earlier. And if your morning is yours, and with the moms, a lot of times it's not, you're being woken up at various times.
Yeah.
You don't know when your day starts. But if you have a more consistent schedule to do it or to schedule it in, but get it in before lunch. Because once lunch happens, then the day is gone. It is
Totally
not yours
agree.
anymore. And too many things come up. And that's why people are like, well, I'm not a morning person. And I was like, great, make yourself a morning person because you're not going to work out at 9 at night. You're not, that's not the time that most people, I shouldn't say that. Some people are those types of people that can work out right before bed, but most of us get home and you want that downtime. You crave that self care in a different way, but you're not kind of intentional on your movement. So that's one
Hmm.
way. Yoga, I find incredible. A lot of
Mm,
my clients I've worked with in the past, especially runners or triathletes, adamantly hate yoga and will not do yoga until they start to see the results. Very much an
mm,
activity kind of group of, well, if you incorporate yoga just one workout a week and drop the high intensity and work on your flexibility and core strength, you'll notice a result in those races, in your form, in your everyday, in your posture, all of it.
interesting.
So you don't need to do yoga 7 days a week. You don't need to go into a hot studio and sweat like crazy. There's a million different resources online, especially since COVID. And
Yeah.
I have a YouTube channel, Great Days by Sarah, and I alternate. So one week I do strength training and then the next week I do yoga. And I change it up. Sometimes it's power yoga, sometimes it's very yin, kind of just slow restorative yoga. And just because you do one yoga class doesn't mean, and you don't like it, which is
Hmm.
fine. Maybe you didn't like the teacher. Maybe the music rubbed you the wrong way. Maybe you just didn't like how your body felt in it. There's so many different types of yoga to try. So
Yeah.
don't give up if you try it one time. It's like I tell
Hmm.
my kids with foods. They're like, I don't like this. Great. We're going to have it again next week.
Yeah. Mom of the year.
Yeah, I'm sorry. This is what it is. Because like your needs change, your taste
Yeah.
buds change, like everything just changes. And then the nutritional point, it's like people think like, oh, if I have like a bad lunch, I hear this all the time from clients. Mom's like, oh, I didn't pack my lunch, I ran out, I got crap. And I'm like, fine. It's what's done is done. But don't turn that one bad choice into a whole day. One bad
Hmm.
choice is just one bad choice. And then the next meal, make up for it. Have a
Yeah.
salad. Have something healthier. So
Yeah.
those baby steps are just like, it doesn't need to be, it's not rocket science or just water. Like just increase your water by a
Yeah.
little because most of us are walking around dehydrated. like beyond belief. And the Cleveland Clinic came out with a thing last year that said women in general, and it's very general, so obviously there's a range here, but on average, women need 91 ounces of water a day.
How
And
many
people are
liters is that?
91 ounces. That's a great question. How many liters is that? I'm not good with the conversions.
I'm going to Google it right now.
Okay.
91 ounces of water. 2 liters is 2.6 liters.
Oh, okay. I would have guessed 2.5. That would have been really close. I'm impressed.
You impressed yourself.
Maybe I know things I just don't know I know.
But it's actually, water is one of those things, and not to get too into this, but I was gonna say water is one of those things I think too that people really value in terms of like health and wellness, and like even for that's something I'm really working on, because I went to the dentist and she was like, do you drink water? And I was like, I have drank a glass before, and she was like, your gums are so dehydrated, I can see it from looking at it. And I was like, oh my god, like, you know, and like, I'm so lucky, like I've never had braces, like anything, so whenever dentists tell me anything, I'm like, but it's like, yeah, like I had no idea that it would have that impact, or like bags under your eyes. Like I was like, oh, I have bags under my eyes, and my friend who's an esthetician who's like a skincare expert, she's like, how much water are you drinking a day? And I'm like, 1 cup with my supplements. And she's like, no, enough of that, right? So if you need to get a Stanley mug to make this happen for you, I think you need to get a Stanley mug.
I mean, you do. Well, I tell people right from the get-go when they join my program, get a water bottle that you love. I mean, not just like, that you love carrying, that fits in a cup holder, that fits in a stroller, that you love. Because if you don't love it, you're not going to bring it places.
Yeah.
And it's going to be like this abandoned child of like, oh, well, I used to have this water bottle over here. I don't know. Or somebody drinks a glass of water, and then you're like, but you're not carrying it everywhere. It needs to be with you all the time to get that much liquid in your body. Yeah. And I will say, if you're someone that's drinking 1 glass of water a day, like with your supplements, don't try to drink 91 ounces or 2.6 liters tomorrow.
Yeah.
Because your body's not going to like that either. It has to be a slow build. You have to slowly increase it, or you will live in the bathroom and nobody has time for that.
It's so funny because when I started working with my naturopath, I've been working on increasing my water. You're watching this on YouTube. But I'm working on increasing my water. And I was like, I'm going to go full gallon. And she's like, what? And I like bought one of those gallon water bottles that it's impossible to pick up. And I was like, so I would like, everywhere I went, I was like carrying around this like water bottle that was like bigger than my head, and that I hated. I think it's somewhere in this room. And so it was like, it was so brutal. And then when I went back, she's like, have you been drinking a gallon? And I was like, I did it one time, and I like peed the entire day, and I'm never going back. So I'm back to my 1 cup. So maybe if I had just started with a liter, I would have made it happen.
You're like, yes, I spent the day in the bathroom and my arms are sore from carrying around a gallon of water.
Yeah, it's a workout. Oh, Sarah, this has been such a fun chat, and I like love your energy. I'm so excited about what you're doing for moms, and I'm so excited to have you on the podcast. But I would love for you to tell everybody like where they can find you and how they can work with you.
For sure. On Instagram, it's Great Days by Sarah. On Facebook, I have an awesome Facebook community called Time Out for Moms. Not to be confused with any parenting. There's no parenting involved in there whatsoever. It is just based on taking care of yourself physically, mentally, and emotionally for just 2% of the day. The other 98 you can give away to everyone else if you want to, but 2% is for you. And so those are the 2 main things. And then I have a website. It's www.greatdaysbysarah.com, where you can find like my updated programs and some sample videos. And then I have stuff on YouTube every week. Great Days by Sarah.
Oh my gosh, good brand consistency, Sarah. Good work.
Thank you.
Yeah, getting all the handles. I love that. And I would love for you, if you guys listen to this, to give Sarah a follow, send her a message letting her know what resonated, and then let us know how you're going to spend your 2%. Like if you're going to do something for yourself in the next few days, whether that's buying a lovely water bottle and carrying it around, or standing outside in some sunlight, or doing a little bit of movement you weren't doing before, shoot us a little message, and we'd love to hear what you're up to. And thank you so much for spending your time with us. We really appreciate it, because we know how busy entrepreneurship is, and can't wait for you to listen next time. Thanks so much for listening to the Build Your Digital Community podcast. If you loved the episode, please don't forget to rate us and leave us a review. Now, we'd love for you to be a part of our digital community. Text JOIN to 855-908-4688 to join our text list for exclusive social media tips, or DM us on Instagram at The Social Snippet, letting us know what you loved about the episode. Keep on building community, and to this and so much more.